You wake up, and before you're even fully conscious, you're already preparing. The right tone for today, the right energy, the right version of yourself for whoever you're about to face. It feels like discipline, like professionalism, like being a functional adult. But there's another word for it: performance. And the question this video is asking is simple and uncomfortable. What happens to the part of you that never gets to show up? Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott spent decades studying something most of us have never been taught to name. He called it the false self, and he traced its origin not to weakness, but to survival. Here's how it begins. A child learns very early that certain parts of themselves are welcome and certain parts are not. The enthusiasm that gets called too much, the anger that gets punished, the sadness that makes the room uncomfortable, the strangeness that gets laughed at. So the child does what any intelligent organism does under threat. It adapts. It learns to suppress what isn't wanted. It builds a version of itself that generates approval, safety, connection. Winnicott called this the false self. Not a lie exactly, more like an armor that was necessary once. The problem is what happens when you forget you're wearing it. Because over time, the armor doesn't feel like armor anymore. It feels like skin. Here's where it gets more specific. Psychologists have documented a pattern called maladaptive perfectionism. And it's not what most people think perfectionism is. It's not about high standards, it's about fear. The person who never says the wrong thing, who reads the room obsessively, who is somehow always exactly what each situation requires. From the outside, this looks like emotional intelligence. From the inside, it feels like exhaustion you can't explain. Because what's actually happening is this. Every social interaction becomes a calculation. What does this person need from me? What version of me keeps me safe here? And the calculation happens so fast, so automatically, after years of practice, that it no longer feels like a choice. It feels like personality. Jung had a name for the part of you that gets buried in this process. He called it the shadow. The shadow in Jungian psychology is not evil. It's not your worst impulses waiting to destroy you. It's simply the parts of yourself that were deemed unacceptable and therefore pushed underground. Your anger, your needs, your grief, your desire, your contradictions, everything the false self learned to hide. And here's what Jung understood that most people don't. Repression doesn't eliminate energy, it displaces it. When you spend years, decades, holding down the parts of yourself that feel too dangerous to express, that suppression requires constant psychological labor. You are working all the time to keep the lid on, and eventually, one of two things happens. The lid fails, and you find yourself reacting in ways that seem disproportionate, out of character, frightening even to yourself. Or the lid holds, and the energy has nowhere to go, so it turns inward. Psychosomatic illness, chronic fatigue, anxiety with no identifiable source, a numbness that settles over everything and refuses to lift. This is not a metaphor. Clinical psychology has documented for decades that the psychological energy required to maintain a false self, to keep the shadow repressed, manifests in measurable physical and emotional symptoms. Your body keeps the account, even when your mind refuses to. There's a specific kind of emptiness that people with well-developed false selves describe. Not sadness exactly, more like distance, a feeling that you're watching your own life from slightly outside it, that you're going through motions that look like living but don't quite feel like it. You succeed, you connect, you achieve things that were supposed to matter, and the feeling afterward is nothing. Or worse, a quiet panic that if this isn't enough, you don't know what would be. Winnicott described this as the true self's protest, the only way the buried part of you can speak. Not through words, through absence, through the hollow feeling that arrives precisely when everything looks fine. Psychologists sometimes call this self-betrayal, the accumulated cost of repeatedly choosing the false self over what you actually feel, actually need, actually are. It's not a single dramatic moment, it's a slow leak. That's what killing you slowly means. Not death, disappearance. This is the part where a lesser video would tell you to be your authentic self and stop caring what people think. We're not gonna do that, because it's not that simple, and you already know it isn't. The false self wasn't built carelessly, it was built under pressure, often very early, by a person who was trying to survive their environment. You don't dismantle that in a weekend. And you don't dismantle it through rebellion, through swinging to the opposite extreme, performing authenticity as loudly as you once performed acceptance. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming more wholly yourself, is not about destroying the persona or burning down the false self. It's about integration, learning to look at the parts of yourself you've hidden with curiosity rather than terror. Not demanding that they explain themselves, not weaponizing them, just acknowledging they exist. Winnicott believed that the true self doesn't need to be built. It needs to be allowed. It's already there, under the adaptation, under the performance, under the years of careful management. It's been waiting. And the beginning of integration is not a breakthrough. It's quieter than that. It's the moment you notice the distance between what you felt and what you showed. And instead of immediately closing that gap by suppressing what you felt, you pause, and you just notice. That pause is the beginning. The false self will not disappear overnight. It's been your survival mechanism. In some contexts, it still needs to be. But there's a difference between wearing a mask consciously and forgetting it's there. The difference is that pause, the moment between stimulus and response where you ask, is this actually me, or is this the version of me I built to be safe? You don't have to answer that question immediately. You just have to start asking it. The next episode in this series goes outward, from the self to relationships, how we lose connection with other people when we've already lost connection with ourselves. But the thread begins here, with the recognition that exhaustion isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the weight of a self you never chose.